So you're close to the camera area, okay? We try to get the volume based on the people, but when you do speak, just speak up then, okay, if you want to ask questions, okay? Okay. And everybody signed in? Okay, everybody signed in?
Something costs about 3 minutes fast. All right, let's call this meeting to order. Everyone can rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Arndt?
Here.
Ms. Cook? Present. Ms. Eisenhart? Here. Ms. Falcone?
Here.
Ms. Hassler? Here. Ms. Palmer? Mr. Stocklin and Mr. Miller are not present.
So today we're going to talk about the 2026 budget. This is a workshop meeting to discuss preliminary information on our budget for next year. So Stacy.
Sure, so what council has in front of them is the general fund, the water fund, and the sewer fund, all separated. There's a cover that adds up the color coding, and then behind that is the stapled worksheets of the multiple pages of all the line items for revenue and expenses. On the cover, the expenses come first, then revenues. So you can compare each year from 2026 budgeted, 2025 budgeted, through actual on 24, 23, and 22. The categories are passed through, meaning when we receive the revenue or we have to make an expense. We are just a fiduciary which takes in the revenue for a line item, and then because of the budget, we're actually able to then expend it. An example would be the relief for the fire company. They have to pass it through a municipality. So we are the municipality for Topton Fire, one of. So we get the formulary amount around this time every year. We have so many dates to deposit it into our account and then turn around and cut a check to the fire relief fund, not directly to the fire company, but to a fund. So that's just one example. And throughout, if you see a yellow line that it's passing through, we can't use it for Topton expenses or revenue. The next item would be a blue category, which signifies that it's a grant revenue or expense, or funds that are specifically restricted for one specific use. You're familiar with a lot of our grants. This would be Oak Alley, so the revenue would be restricted for the use of the Oak Alley project that we just completed. The employee expenses are in pink. That would be from salaries to benefits to taxes. It runs the gamut. Let's skip over green. So the next after the green would be red, all legally required expenses or revenues. That means if we're required to have a council and a mayor, then the expenses of the salary are red. If we're required to have a zoning hearing board, the expenses of the zoning hearing board meetings, their solicitor, their stenographer, at least are partially red. The last item is gray, and that's debt service and loan proceeds. So debt service is a revenue. We incurred the loans for street overlays, for water improvements and sewer improvements. And then now the payments on a yearly basis will be the expenses. You'll also see where we're using the loans. So if you have any questions on any of those, let us know. So then going back to green, it's all other. So that's what we use to operate, whether it's a street light that we have to pay the med ed bills, that we have to fix, or it's a street, or for the water department, it's the maintenance of the system, it's the computer IT, all of that, sewer, same thing. So anything green is all the rest that's not restricted and is more flexible for us to use revenue and to allocate for our expenses. So if it's a green expense, we have way more flexibility than the other categories.
Thank you, that was a great explanation. So the reason,
Is green also for emergencies? Should we have an emergency?
Should we have an emergency? We really don't have a savings. We don't have a rainy day fund for Topton.
and really, the green and the red are all operating expenses. I've just segregated out the red because that's non-negotiable stuff that we have to provide for. So I asked Stacy to color code this budget because I wanted all of you to get an idea of what monies we have that we really can't not have for a purpose. We really have to have monies for the legal requirements of a borough, and we also have to have the pass-through monies that come in. Because when you look at our budget, and let's just take 2024 for an example. That's an actual number. In 2024, let's look at the general fund, and we're going to focus more on the water and the sewer account. But the general fund, when you look at the proceeds in the general fund, it shows we have $1.4 million roughly. It's the number at the very bottom of the page here. Is that correct?
Correct. Nope.
That's chime in. So basically, that was the revenue we had for this general fund for the borough in 2024. And that's an actual number. That's what we actually spent to operate the borough in 2024. But when you look at that number, you see $1.4 million. That doesn't mean that money can be used for, we can decide where many of the uses of that money go. We're pretty much tied to, at the top, when you look across pass-through, and you come across to 2024, you see $179,000 of expenses that passed through our budget in expenses, and we only had 132,000 and change as far as revenue that was passed through. So you'll see that some of the revenues we get, we can't use for anything but what they're required to be used for. But it's interesting with this particular number, when you see that we brought in $132,000 worth of revenue as pass-through revenue, most of that was taxes that were separate from our property tax that were for the fire and the ambulance. And there's, I think that's the bulk of that, is for those two, they're the two big dollar items. So we collect those taxes in the tax bill, but the cost for those pass-throughs is actually $179,000, so we're actually negative. We actually are collecting less money than we really need to pay for those required pass-through expenses. So that shortfall in that category is about $10,000 worth of shortfall. And that actually comes out of the rest of our tax money to pay the difference. So when you look at these, sometimes the revenues that we take in for things don't really cover the full cost of what it costs for those things. So
Is that particular shortfall true for all the boroughs and townships?
that I can't answer.
I can't answer that either. We did an adjustment to our schedule of fees. It could be permits that were not equal to the expense of our engineering firm associated with the permit. It could be unpaid permits. It could be NOVs, those are violations.
Thank you.
Well, and also in that particular category of pass-through revenues, some of that is, I believe we categorize like if someone is planning, the planning commission, if there's someone who's planning something and now they pay fees to process it, but we have costs that we incur as well that aren't covered by the applications and the fees that they pay. So there's a shortfall of monies, and that all adds up. So there's some things that come out of our revenue for things that you would think wouldn't. As far as employee costs, when you compare those and you go down the list here, there are some credits that go towards them. And we do get some revenue from the state for the pension, and our employees also have a portion that they pay for their health insurance, and that's a credit in our revenue section there. So when you look at that pink column there, and you go, basically for 2024, it shows it was $49,000 worth of revenue. That's almost $50,000 worth of revenue that we collected, and then that would go, basically get put towards the expense that we have of $480,000 for this category for personnel costs. So I wanted Stacy to use these color-coded things just to give you an idea of how much money we really don't have to spend when it comes to operating expenses and employee costs. They're the two areas that we have some flexibility. But when it comes to the legally required things we need to do in every fund, and all the grants and the grant money that comes in is for a specific use. Can't use those to give any of that money to our employees or to use towards other operating expenses. So we have very, very limited revenue to use towards employees and towards our operating expenses. Any questions?
Just wondering, the $47,000 that came out of straight out of the taxpayers in 2024 for the past year.
I can
But it's
investigate.
not so much less. The year before, we actually got excess to what we had to pay out. So I'm wondering, we changed something in what we were contributing, if we took on additional obligations, or
So I would have to go through all of the yellow in general fund and figure out the difference.
There's some other things when you look at this budget that kind of skew things, because in 2023, we raised taxes in 2024, so our revenue increased. So our taxes, our real estate taxes went from 400 and, it was 440. So in 2023, the real estate taxes we collected from our town, or at least the majority of them that we collect, fortunately, is $477,000. But then we increased the taxes in 2024. So if you look on the worksheet of the draft budget and of the the total sheet here, but the actual budget that has the green, yellow, and these lines. The very first line, it's shown for 2024, we actually had $552,000 worth of real estate tax revenue. That's because we increased taxes almost 15%. I think it was a 14.7% increase in our taxes. That was $1 million. So we have, again, more revenue that we're using in 2024. We also have some interesting things because we get grant monies in some years, and then the project doesn't actually happen until the following year. So I have to wonder if some of those expenses that we incur the next year are actually for monies we've got in advance or after the fact. So I don't know.
Design and engineering sometimes occurs pre-project start.
Okay, so there's a lot of things that go from year to into the next year, into the next year. So when you look at it for a year, we also have funds that our fund balance that we use to balance the next year's budget. So you had asked about, do we have any rainy day money? And that's something we're going to discuss at some point, but we have an extremely low amount of reserve money. So from what Stacy told me, if I got this correct, a fund balance is our reserve. That is the money that's what they call unencumbered money. So we should have a little bit of money. It's kind of a little nest egg for the emergencies we have. And that should be, we don't have this, but it should be about either a year's worth of monthly expenses or 3 months worth of revenue. Is that what I have already?
I would think 3 to 6 months of expenses, whatever that equates to.
So we should have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, worth of money set aside for emergencies. We have less than a third of that.
So our fund balances, in reality, are the checking account balances at the end of each year. Whether it's the sewer fund, the water fund, the general fund.
Well, if the general fund, do you need for the first months of the next year?
Yes. And
Because
water
you
and
don't
sewer.
get the- Yeah, you don't
Pay
have the
bills.
money coming in.
Especially
Those
for
months.
tax monies.
That's not even like an excess amount that's required for the first 3 months or.
Because taxes aren't starting to come in until April, May.
And we should have much more than we do. So it's I don't know how you do it. It's a very difficult juggling act to do. So the notion that we have a profit of revenue is untrue. We actually do, in fact, do not have enough money, or as much money as we should have in reserve in the event we have a major system failure and we have to address it. So that's why I wanted to color code these. But I don't want to waste too much time on this. Stacy really needs to work on this budget, and we need to find a time that she can be uninterrupted to get her head focused on this. That's something we're going to talk about afterward. So if we could go to the water and sewer fund, because that's what's on our agenda really today. Stacy, for Stacy, I'm not sure that is.
So the water fund and the sewer fund, just as a reminder to everyone in the room, the rents or your quarterly bills are supposed to pay for everything involved in the system, including maintenance. Not connections, just what we have now, and gets through the whole year with the quarterly bills. So if we find that the chemicals are going up and the revenue that we currently have, that we predict is not going to cover us, then considering rate increases. And that's why we're having the rate study for both water and sewer done by RCAP, and they're currently working on that. So we don't have the results for that, so they'll be able to give us more information next month. The large outstanding projects are funded partially by grant money and partially by the loans. So our larger projects for this year are supposed to still be done this year, which are the Washington Street Pump Station, and the chlorination contact tank for the sewer plant. For the water system, it is Keller Street, Barclay Street, and Franklin Street that we really need to focus first on Barclay and then Keller and Franklin, since we have an active grant for Barclay that'll pay for part of Barclay, as well as then the loan funds. So those are the projects that we need to focus on in 26, 27 if we have to. Any questions?
And we'll probably get into this more next month, but with Charlie leaving, I don't have a warm feeling about Washington Street. He promised us we'd start seeing equipment down there. There's nothing down there. And here we are at the end of September, and now he left.
Yeah, nothing.
Now the new guy's doing anything. I don't know. I just don't have a warm feeling about that.
Well, we'll get a status at our October meeting. The new engineering representative for council will be present, and that person, Joshua, is going to have to answer and give us a status on each and every item that was in the last report to council.
And he's gonna have to update him on that. I'm sure they have notes within their company.
Right. And looking at the bid package for the chlorination tank, the status of that, bid package for Washington Street, and the status of that is on their priority.
Wonder if, how it works. The amount of time, the hours that he's gonna have to put into to get up to speed on Topton, is that billable to us?
I would hope not. I can ask that question.
I would certainly hope not.
Any other questions?
What kind of engineer is he specifically? Because I know Charlie was water and sewer specifically in that area. I know they have the whole, different avenues within their guys.
He didn't present a focus, but that could probably be a good introduction and first question to him when he presents his report next month.
Works in the same department, hopefully he's.
He works right next to,
Okay, so he's probably.
yeah, right next to the, the cubicles. We're next to each other.
He's gonna need to get up even the pool, all the information that Charlie had and said about the pool. He's gonna need to get, well, not that we're dealing with that now, but at some point we will.
And the well, and Holiday House and Luther Meadows. Quite a few projects we have.
Hours for him to put into one Topton. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So the water and the sewer account sheet also follow this same coloring, highlighting, coding right here. And some of these really not, categories probably aren't really applicable here, but it basically gives you which line items throughout that sheet of itemized line items goes into each category for both expenses and revenues. Well, basically the revenue is what I'm putting in. That's, from everybody's water bill, and of course any grant money, that's basically it. For revenue.
And the 2026 budget amendment for health insurance,
For which fund?
right now, it's a water.
This is based on our current coverage with the proposed increase as of the date that it was given to us,
11%.
11.1%.
So you can see on this water fund account that the personnel costs are not just our operator, there's administrative costs, so there's parts on our manager and our secretary that also get added in proportionate to what time they spend doing water bills and all the things that are necessary. So that's why you see these peak areas on two different pages. She has it itemized out for the administration expenses and then also for operator expenses. And we don't have it here today. It was given to us previously. We have a list of all of our employees and how a percentage of how much time they spend and are in each. They get paid from different funds. Some of our workers work for a couple of different funds. So these numbers represent the percentage of time they spend in each fund that they're compensated for. So like Stacy, for example, she's compensated on all three funds because she spends time managing three different funds. So when you look at administrative costs, she has it separated out with a portion of her compensation and she gets as part of the revenue that comes in from the water fund. That's her expense, and that's all itemized, which is actually very, very well done the way this is laid out. These are papers you really have to kind of look at and kind of just go over and digest. So this is just any questions for today. Move on from that, and we also have on here to talk about streets, buildings, parks, equipment, so what would you like to mention about streets? Is there anything, Stacy, that just,
Julie might be more informed about this because of the projects and the capital plan that she created.
We're working on the phases because we're trying to costs of availability, but it seems like for our first phase, they're gonna hit a good chunk of it, but it won't be starting until next week. Or maybe the end of this week. A lot of the ones for next year that we were slated for, the seventh phase, were gonna be the ones related to the pipes being replaced. And, possibly just having, bids out for the base repair and then maybe overlay by the co-op. Correct.
Or if it's found to be cost effective, while a contractor is here replacing pipes underground for Keller, Franklin, Barclay, to add the finish coat on top, asphalt.
So that for next year, I think that's the bulk of the time we will be for those, hopefully, if those pipes get replaced, for those three things. I mean, if we want to phase three from the paper that's hanging in the office for the base aid, if we can get to phase three, that would be great.
what is phase three? What do we plan on doing? Is it just more street
That would be,
overlays?
yeah. So, I was able to talk to the LTAC guy today, the engineer, and he went around looking at all the streets, and what he thought maybe was possibly unnecessary or could add to more headache doing milling and overlaying. So maybe just doing like a fog seal, which would extend the life of our roads without some of the roads, the base layer is very thin. So it's other avenues to look into, but that's amazing. We have a schedule.
What is fog seal?
I don't just heard today, and I'm looking.
Did he actually look at all the streets and?
Oh, yeah, we spent a couple hours.
Okay.
He was very informative, and he's willing to, since this is pretty much a living document, he's willing to like help reevaluate things like the beginning of next year. And it was, we're kind of, and it's free.
So in terms of our buildings, we've discussed looking at the salt shed, that's considered one of our buildings. Pretty much maintenance for other buildings of ours, including this one, is what we can do in 2026.
Looking at maintenance on this building for 2026.
The ADA improvements, finishing those.
Not the roof.
Not as far as ADA, it's still in okay shape.
And we've been talking about that, I think, since we started the council, years, several years, AGA. This keeps getting put off. The parks, so anything with the parks that we need to, we're pretty much done.
We still need to decide about the restroom security system. We have one quote that was received, one that's expected, and that's a decision of council. That's kind of related to the buildings, but not really. It's more security and service.
There's something else outstanding that can wrap up everything.
Yep, and we do.
There's park benches and benches that are used in general.
That is another thing that Josh Fry is going to be presenting.
We have all those extra benches, and Eric Stout and Ethan had talked about replacing the benches that Borough already has. Why are we even talking about buying new benches?
No, it's the money, it was free money, we were just trying to use it
Excess
as
grant
grant money, it's grant money.
It's
Yeah.
restricted.
Use it or lose it, and we can only use it for certain things. Because honestly, I wish we could use it for something else.
Where do we get benches? Where are they?
Yeah, there's stores.
There's all kinds of benches, yeah, there's benches that could be put along the pathway.
Do they have backs to them or just empty?
Yes.
They may have been there just because didn't get to put it out, because that's a new, that was done this year, maybe even Jesse was out and.
Yeah, so they talked about that 2 years ago, already doing something along there with benches that we already had.
Well, this was, I think they were talking about the Columbia Trail because the park grant
Oh,
is
yeah,
restricted.
The trail out
The
here.
walking trail.
Yeah, the walking trail, they talked about putting benches along there and using what the borough already had on hand rather than, just spending money, even though it is a grant, I get that, but.
It's not
The
our
free money,
It's not our money, it's.
and it's linked to us needing to spend funding out of our funds, and it won't be reimbursed by the grant for various services toward spending down the rest
So,
of the grant.
we might have.
$2,900 was the estimate. That would not be reimbursed by the grant.
Yeah, so we're looking at paying more, it's gonna cost us more to, revise it.
Costing us.
And we won't be penalized to give back the money, it just shows we efficiently use the grant money and.
I would rather see us hand money back and use stock that we already have.
Oh, absolutely.
Than just letting the stock sit there and rot.
Is it in good condition? Have you seen it, Kathy?
Yeah, it's not in bad condition, I mean, there's some things that aren't that great, but,
We have a lot.
yeah, we're not gonna need 100 benches.
Well, that's not what you're getting, we just get it now, we just half a dozen, 6 floors.
Yeah, exactly, so I'm sure that out of the benches that we have, we can come up with, let's just say 10 good ones, and put something. Do whatever they talked about, secure them, and
It would not be a lot of effort to install this little rail fence around the green lawn for our staff. Because it's been excavated, and we know where all the lines are and any of improvements to installation
We
of
would save a
fence.
lot of money there too.
And those were the two main items the council was interested in, correct?
Rather than paying Barry Eisen to sit here and tell us, we should put a bench there, we should put a bench there, we should.
And there's no guarantee DCNR is gonna say yes to us changing the scope to add things in. Or that the contractor, the existing contractor will say yes to, sure, we'll come back and do some work for you, so there is no guarantee.
And how much money was that?
The total amount
Yeah.
of the balance,
What?
it was substantial, it was like $40,000 to $50,000, somewhere in that ballpark.
But I didn't know we had some of those funds to cover ourselves.
Yes, we have to cover that,
Because
because we usually, it's a percent of your expenditures you're allowed to,
It goes towards.
ask for reimbursement for planning, engineering, design, and we've already met that.
So we can save money.
The max.
Oh, yeah, we don't have to do it, I'm okay to
You know,
go.
just throwing it out
We can take a
there.
vote on that.
We have enough trees in the park.
We have, a nice amount from the previous grants.
Well,
We
there's
don't
trees
know what our
pushing it
shortfall
all.
is in revenue
Yeah,
right now, so like, I don't wanna spend $2,900 when we could be $180,000 negative in our budget, we don't know, I think that number changed, right? So it's not that much.
For 2025,
Negative balances, the budget we're working on for 2026.
it's tentative.
Yes, you still
Yeah.
have to work on it.
Yeah, because we recently received the PMRS, the pension state aid, and it was lower than I had budgeted by approximately $7,000.
Yeah, I saw that in the budget.
So I'm just throwing that out there, that would be money savings.
I'm okay with that, I thought that was just grant money that we were spending, but it's, we have to spend our own money for any of that, we don't need it. That seems pointless to me, so I get in favor of not doing that. Is that something we have to vote on?
At the next meeting, Joshua was about to give the summary that Charlie was scheduled
All right, then
to give.
we'll talk about that. Is there any other equipment or anything else?
Equipment, Scott had approached me, Scott Stelz, regarding mowers. They tried to, in a cycle, look at the condition and age of them. We replaced a John Deere lawn tractor, that was the most recent. That was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Now, one of his zero turns is getting to the life of, because we use that farm, zero turns, is getting to the end, and he approached someone to get a quote for a trade-in. It's actually salvage what we have and trade it in for a discount on a mower. So that's been given to me as a priority. That was the only item besides the salt spreader that they still need.
And there's no, he didn't get quotes yet, so that's just, it's, we don't have that information in there, but, yeah, cost wise.
He got one, so if they are co-stars or if it's below the required amount, we don't need to get more than one price. And usually it's a return with a trade-in, it's
Do you have?
12,000, 13,000, somewhere around there.
The salt spreader is off the table.
Okay.
I said at the last meeting, I'll buy it. I
Okay,
bought it, I got another donors, the salt spreader's here.
okay, great, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
That's wonderful.
That can go back in the budget.
Some of the donors are here, so
That's
I
good.
thank them too.
That's wonderful.
Thank you, everyone.
It's wonderful.
We need 180,000 more donations, right?
So that's all. And once we,
Our water course,
the water course is a major project, and that would fall into the general fund.
because, it's already starting, we were looking at it this morning, and there's already debris going down through it. So it might be something we want to tackle sooner rather than later, or make more work cleaning those things out. So I don't know what exact, strategy to address the water course. So it might be like an engineering thing first, that we want to put into the budget. to start thinking about it, so we don't have to just keep cleaning up after it. Because it was a mess. He had you're an example for not to do. So he's gonna put his clothes, so you might want to fix that.
So the approximation estimate of what it would take to restore, rehabilitate, retain, and not let it erode any farther is $300,000 to $400,000. And we have been told that we can get half of that through a DCNR grant.
This is where the shed is getting ready to
Correct.
fall in.
And one fence is about to fall in, and
What was that amount again for the street?
$300,000 to $400,000. We do have a land survey, so we know whose land, or what part of the water course is our land and what is private.
This is something that the borough's been aware of, and that you've worked at least a year and a half, not 20 years.
Right, and I provided the study to council, a copy of it, with the photographs of the entire length, from Weiss, beyond that.
We still haven't dealt with it.
Correct.
So would we want to address that starting this year? And how best do we move forward with this? Is it more of an engineering cost, or should we break this whole study down? Or should we figure this out?
Well, right now, because we have some major financial unknowns, it's like almost everything's on hold until we figure out where our costs are going to be from other areas. I think we do have to do something.
Right, because we just put the whole new piping in, and now it's starting to be filled up with rocks and debris, so we're going to be just following disasters unless we get on that.
It may be good to now pursue a DCNR grant and then do it when we do receive the grant, maybe 2027, 2028, with the hope that we will receive it. Because as far as engineering, they've walked the course, they've done the study, they've done the survey of the water course to determine where the property lines are. That's about all we could afford at the time, and that's as far as it's gone.
But since we have those pipes in, maybe we can figure out some way in the next year to protect them from, like, everything.
And we can.
Sitting right at those points.
Yeah, and intermediate step before getting grant funding, contacting Christine Milner was very nice, and just asking her to take a look at that section, that area. Any other questions or projects that Nina's talking about under any of these categories?
With the zero turn mower, I'd be very interested to know cost to rehab it if it needs some parts rehab as opposed to doing 13,000 trading it in. I'd also like to have considered, my understanding was, it was announced at a meeting a while back by Randy, it was that when the guys came in from other communities and saw the equipment that we have here in Topton for the men, whoa, wow, I can't believe you have all this stuff, man, that's great, oh, that's fantastic, oh, this is wonderful. That, like, we have much more equipment apparently than surrounding communities. And I was wondering if we could look at what could be sold. Because maybe they could make do with a bit less, if other communities are making do with a whole lot less.
We have an inventory of equipment I think we have, so yes. So you're saying if there's equipment we're not using, is that what you're thinking, that we're
If it's
need?
really like going overboard, like nice to have rather than the job will not get done unless we absolutely have it. I don't know how much weight on the budget, but it's something I'd like to be at least considered.
So when we have a piece of equipment that we do use and we sell it, then we would have to turn around and rent in the future for anything that we sell and use. Just keep that in.
Okay.
I think if we have it and it's paid for, why get rid of it? 'Cause
Yeah.
you're gonna pay to rent it anyway.
Because it depends on what it is, and if it's,
Is it used once a
is it
year?
road until you use once a year, or is it, something like a zero to try to use all the time? That's,
Or the backhoe using it all the time, the bobcat using it all the time.
I don't know what equipment, if they have 5 bush hogs, well then of course they probably don't need 5 of them. But, so I guess that's what you're saying, because, okay, so if they have like a surplus of.
Right. So what I'll do is I'll supply council with the inventory of our equipment and vehicles. Some equipment you see as equipment, but it's actually registered with PennDOT, so it's considered a vehicle. So I will supply that.
I have a rough idea of how often it's used.
That's just it, if we get me on a list, that's fine, but I don't know how, the guys know how much they use, and I don't know what they're.
That's what you're saying though, a snowplow only gets used when it snows. They don't use the snowplows right now. When it's nice out, they're not gonna use a snowplow.
Well, of course, that would be not.
So,
This, it's more like
we're
we're
gonna
done
get rid of the snowplows.
Well, of course not, I don't think anyone's saying that.
So if they're not using it,
No, it's about, what you- no, that's not, I don't think that's what anyone's talking about.
that's what it sounds like.
No, that's used seasonally, just like we don't use a zero turn on snow. I mean, of course we're not, because we don't use it. It'd be good to know what they do use, because I don't know what they use and what they need, when they know what they need. How would any of us know what they need and use? They should let us know what they need or use on a regular basis. That's something they have to decide, and we have to decide. Is there anything else with, discuss any other needs for 2026 budget?
So one thing with keeping up with our records, a couple of years ago, we purchased a lot of minute books because we were storing improperly our minutes, ordinances, resolutions. Even though everything's codified, not everything is codified. So you still need to always have minutes, and they should be in a locked minute book after they're approved, and then in a fireproof or a fire-resistant filing cabinet. So our filing cabinet is full, and we're out of minute books again. So I did put it in the administrative budget under the general fund. So if you see under supplies for our office equipment,
That's included.
that's why there's a jump. Yeah, and I didn't do it year after year, so I did take a little break, because it is not
So
cheap.
how much do you buy, how much do you buy them, like a bulk of?
Yes,
So then
yes,
it's
and it takes us a while to fill the cabinet as we're processing everything.
And do you make digital copies of any of that stuff? Like you put anything on a thumb drive, and put that in a save in case we like something?
All the ordinances are in PDF format, but digitizing, we haven't gotten to, going beyond that with records in general
And
in
then,
the office.
do you move the records that are in the fireproof cabinets somewhere after they're dated, like after they're?
That's the permanent stuff. So those are the minutes, ordinances, resolutions, that can never be destroyed. They have to be saved forever. We use regular cabinets for everything
Right.
else that has a 7-year retention, 5-year retention, 3-year retention.
Okay, is there anything else with the budget at this point? Any questions? I'd like to have, Stacy let us know what you need in order to be able to work on the budget, because you need, uninterrupted time to focus on it, and I don't know what to come up with, something to make that happen for you, because sooner we can get these numbers to see how week, is that,
Maybe between now and the next regular council meeting,
if there's a day or a half a day or
have things
something
in the afternoons or something like that,
maybe
and I'll email it to all of council what my plan would be.
Okay, good, that would be good. Okay.
Excuse me. One quick note for these guys. Can you tell us about, in general, maybe back the past 1 year or something, how much of a deficit, like how much revenue, how much budget deficit? So as we discuss taxes and the purpose of them, where they go, kind of have an idea of discuss that, those kind of things. And it can be general, ballpark, top and bottom line.
It's just answer.
This page in the budget has numbers on the previous meeting.
So, 2024,
Yeah.
not 2025? Yeah, we have that. So, under the general fund, we had revenues of $1,434,028.17. And expenses of $1,528,733.23. So our expenses exceeded our revenues, and that's where our fund balance came in handy, so that's what covered those over expenses. So that's general. Do you want it for the other funds too?
No,
Okay.
So we were $94,705 short
And that fund.
in our general fund in 2024.
And that's why you have to set your expenses versus, what money you have. And that's when you have to decide about putting taxes up, for water rates and sewer rates and things like that. So that you have more money coming in to cover what's going out. Unfortunately.
It's very expensive in our town. I think the streetlights alone are like $50,000 a year in electricity. I think that's what
It's around there, yes. But they're important for safety, so we
Yeah.
need to do that. That's right.
Keep you guys safe.
We did put in that year 14.7% tax increase. Unfortunately, we didn't want to do that, but
that was in 24.
I guess that's why we're talking about some of these issues, because they're pretty big issues. And if you had a healthy fund balance, what you do is over time, some of that starts to whittle away. So say you have an extra $20 in your pocket, and this week you need $5 because your bicycle had a flat tire, and you had to buy a patch and pump it up with air, and okay, there goes $5. And by the end of the month, you used up your $20, then you have a problem. And that's kind of where we're at. We've used up our money, and now we have a problem. We either have to raise taxes, or we have to start cutting some of the things that we spend money on. And just about everything in our budget is a necessity. The only elective things we have in our budget really are a donation we give to the library, which is a very, very important donation. We had to reduce that last year, which was not a pleasant thing to do. And we also give money to our museum. It's a donation we give. it starts getting tight, things have to change. There's expenses that go with that. Fortunately, we have a wonderful organization that really does the bulk of the fundraising for that, so we can all enjoy it. So TCOC does a fabulous job for us, for the whole community. So if that's it for us right now, then I'm just going to ask, hearing the visitors, if anyone has any questions they'd like to ask. How would be the time?
Stand.
Oh, okay, yes, Marion, if you could please stand, state your name for the record. Okay. Yes.
Name and address.
What time's dinner? Oh, I had said at the last meeting, I will keep you informed when we have some notes. So there's nothing, no, just nothing new to report. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Anyone?
I have a question.
Okay.
What area are you working in?
As far as citizenship for
Citizenship in the community, that's the name of our badge.
Yeah, it's one of the requirements of Eagle Scout.
Yes, it is.
Some of the questions there, just that they're discussing in this is what budgets are covered, so that's why we're attending tonight's meeting, and then what aspects that kids can even participate in within the community. So, pointing out park benches as they look for community service projects moving forward, things of that nature that scouts are capable of doing.
yes,
Is there anything that the scouts can help with the park?
there are many things you could help with, and we would love to have you help with some of the things.
Mike?
Yeah.
Yes, Daniel? Murphy?
I talked with a gentleman that has a son that's gonna be working on his Eagle Scout to do maybe a hometown hero project that we need done. I didn't know if that was you.
So there's 3 troops in the area. So we're part of Long Swamp with the UCC church. I know there's Topton, New Jerusalem. I think who has their own ring. So there's quite a few troops around this area, so I'm not for sure what those are. So I think there's about at least 3 troops that feed into our unit. So
I'm happy you boys are working on this merit badge and hope all 3 of you are committed to getting your Eagle rank. Scout. That is very important.
Yes, it is.
they still got a couple years ahead of them.
Okay.
But it takes that long to
When you are of age, go ahead and get the Eagle honor. And when you're of age, to start applying for jobs, and you have a little resume, be sure to put on that you're an Eagle Scout. My son was an Eagle Scout, and he applied at Bear Mountain he wanted to work on the mountain, snowboarding and helping maintain, and everybody wanted that. And the gentleman who was doing the hiring for that position, tons of people got hired to work in the kitchen and wash dishes and things like that. But the Lori's job at the time was working on the mountain. And he thought that my son was an Eagle Scout, and he said, I've looked at so many resumes, he says, my eyes are starting to blur. He said, but I see you're an Eagle Scout, you've got the job. So, he worked for that badge, and it means a lot to other people. Keep that in mind.
And we have a number of really cool things if you ever want to volunteer your time. We do, in the spring, we do a cleanup Topton day prizes. We also have a really cool car show, thanks to Scott, that gets put together. And sometimes we need guys to help direct where the car, we really need all cars that park, and that's a great event, music and things for our community. So check in with us, and if you don't mind, we'll check in with you, and maybe you can help us out in some of those different events. Thank you for attending.
Yeah.
If that's it for us tonight, then I'd like to adjourn the meeting, and then we're going to go into an executive session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, is there a second? Julie, Gerald's got to join. So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, meeting adjourned. We're going to go into executive session, so everyone can please step out, have a nice evening.